So now it's time to hear from you.
We know when it comes to buying, renting, refinancing, so many of you have a lot of real estate questions.
So we're giving our Metro Residential viewers the mic.
We hit the streets in order to get your questions.
And then we'll give you all the answers.
Here's the 411.
In a city like New York, it's hard enough to get around, let alone navigate the ins and outs of the real estate market. Luigi Rosabianca is one of New York City's top real estate attorneys. Really, few attorneys know real estate like Luigi. So when it comes to answering your real estate questions, he's our expert. Hey, Luigi, good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
All right, we have an interesting question today, a little controversial. You ready?
Let's hear it.
Okay, here we go.
Hi, I'm Kendall Amerson from Manhattan. My question is, can a realtor lower their commission to close the deal?
All right, well, there's the question. Can a real estate broker be part of making the sale by reducing their commission?
Jeff, by law, all real estate commissions are negotiable.
Okay.
And in this environment, we've seen a lot more brokers make accommodations to close a deal. You know, there's a lot more wheeling and dealing, and it's become a buyer's market, and sometimes a broker will contribute to help close a deal. Okay? So we've seen this, especially in this buyer's market, occur more often than not.
But again, I think that, buyers now feel like they've got a lot of juice going into these deals and that they can kind of dictate terms all the way around. You probably got to slow down before you think that you're going to be able to make everybody contribute some of their commission.
Jeff, you're right. It's a strong buyer's market, but you also have to take into account that these are people that are advertising the property, spending lots of their labor and time in marketing the property, and it's probably unjust to have our hands in other people's pockets, especially when they're working so hard for it. However, if we can, I always like to say, if we're all a little bit miserable, we're all happy.
Okay, well, I think that's a great point. And so it shouldn't be something that somebody goes into the negotiation thinking, but it's something that you might want to ask if it's very close and it could make a difference.
Jeff, in most transactions, the seller has a listing agreement with their broker, so they're obliged to pay X commission. If the broker then wants to make an accommodation, well, that's just him being charitable.
So one should not assume that it's appropriate, or that you really are going to be able to force the broker to help you make your deal. That broker's agreed to that commission and has a contract.
Well said.
Okay, thank you, Luigi, very much for the information.
Thank you, Jeff.
Hi, Luigi. Great to see you.
Great to see you as well, Jeff.
We have an interesting question this week. Are you ready?
Let's hear it.
Here we go.
Hi, my name's Jordan Brown from Brooklyn, New York. My question is, if you're about to buy a house, is there a formula for finding out how expensive of a house you can afford?
All right, so this is, basic real estate 101 question, great nuts and bolts question. Luigi, how do you know how much a house you can afford? Is there a formula? What should be guiding you?
Depends who you ask. My grandfather always said, if you don't have the money in your pocket, don't buy it.
All right. That's right. So in this case, I think our viewer is looking for how much can I afford to borrow to buy a house, and what will the bank lend me? So I can tell you that the formula today is about 45% for a conventional loan, gross to gross dollars. But what does that really mean?
I don't know. It's going to be a custom-made suit. Every solution is going to be different for every purchaser. So it depends on what his real life expenses are. What his additional income is. If this is a income generating property, perhaps it's a mixed use, there may be some rental income. So we really need to look at the global circumstances when analyzing his specific economics.
Would you agree that maybe this is a question that we should ask ourselves first before we look for third-party verification? In other words,
soul searching.
How much can I really afford on a monthly basis? And then see if that's okay with the bank, as opposed to the bank telling you, well, you can pay this, and then trying to make that fit into my lifestyle.
Well, Jeff, I believe a lot of these federally mandated programs seek to do just that. Have everyone conform to fiscal prudence.
Right.
So if everyone's a little bit more prudent, the loans will not default. If we're not borrowing more than we can really afford, it'll work.
I get this a lot in my practice. Buyers want me to tell them how much they can afford. And I don't know, it seems to me like there's an analysis you have to do about your own lifestyle and your own choices.
I think the question is, and how much will you lend to them And at that point, they should then shop accordingly. So if they can qualify for X loan, they should purchase X property. So it becomes an interesting personal analysis of how much they really want to spend on a residence, and also how much of that income do they want to sacrifice for that residence.
All right. I think that's great advice. And the last comment is think it through thoroughly, because the decision you're making is a very long-term decision.
Maybe 30 years.
Very good, Luigi. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff.
Hi, Luigi. It's great to see you.
Great to see you as well.
I'm excited to hear today's question. You ready?
Let's hear it.
Here we go.
Hi, my name's Neil. I'm from Queens, and I had a question. Wanted to know, when doing home renovations, how do I make sure I don't invest too much money into certain types of renovations?
Aha. Great question. The renovation question. If I'm going to improve my property, Luigi, or I'm going to make any changes, how do I know if I'm making the right changes, if I'm spending too much money on them, and if I'm going to get my money back out of those improvements?
Jeff, I think what every home purchaser wants to balance is his personal needs, because inevitably your home is your residence and there's a certain emotional attachment, as well as the long-term investment therein. So if you're a big cooker and you want an extravagant kitchen, obviously you may spend a little bit more money in the kitchen. If you have lovely cars and you want a garage, you may spend a little bit more money in the garage. So you really want to balance those equities.
All right, so we've really got to consider, is it my taste? Is it taste that's going to appeal to a lot of different people? Is it more aesthetic, as you say, or is it a real capital improvement in the property?
Sure, the incoming purchaser may not want an in-ground pool.
Mm-hmm. So, as a rule, you want to try and keep your improvements to things that are less extravagant, more mainstream?
Especially if you're only going to hold on to your home for a short period of time.
Right. And so, I've heard anecdotally that in kitchens and bathrooms, you can never spend too much. That's where you get the most money back. Are there any things that, may be totally the wrong place to put the money?
Well, like the example I gave earlier, if we're dealing with the outer boroughs, the landscaping, the pool, the garages, a lot of this has an aesthetic bent to it. Uh-huh. It's not a real asset.
And landscaping can be really expensive, so you got to be careful. You may not get that money back.
Jeff, you're absolutely right. One person's garbage is another man's treasure. So if we're making capital improvements to our home, there are certain constants. But if we're making an aesthetic evaluation, then it's an emotional purchase. It's an emotional investment for our needs.
Luigi, thank you very much. Really great information.
Thank you, Jeff.